All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Happy December 11th, which is crazy to say. I can't believe we're already to that point, almost to the holidays and to the end of the year. But hope everyone is having a great day here. I'm gonna let a few more people jump on in the maybe a minute or two pass before we kick it off. But happy for you guys to join us, and we'll get this going in a second here. I'll give it, I think, till 001 or 02. All right, I think I see a lot of people kind of starting to join, so I'm going to give it again another just like 10, 15 seconds here, and then I'll kick this off with some housekeeping for everybody. We'll go through a few poll questions to kind of kick it off, and then we'll turn it over to Jeff to learn about scale. So give me 10 or 15 seconds here, and then we'll get started. I think we're at about a nice even number. So, Jeff, if it's okay with you, I'm going to kick this off and we'll get started with everyone. So, again, thank you all for joining. Andrew Ramirez with D&H Lenovo ISG. So, one of your distributing partners here for Lenovo ISG. Appreciate all y'all joining this. I know it's, like I said, towards the end of the year, so quite a busy time for everyone, but I'm extremely, extremely excited about this presentation and kind of working with Jeff because we've been talking about Lenovo's kind of partnership with Scale for the last few months and really trying to get our partners involved in that and introduced to that because I think there's going to be a ton of opportunity for it going forward in 2026 and even beyond that. And so as we go through this kind of presentation, one of my asks of you guys as the attendees, we're going to have a few poll questions. Make sure you answer those. The more information we can get, the more relevant we can make the presentations and make it worth your while. And then I just say, make sure, as you're hearing Jeff go through this presentation, that you're thinking about certain customers of yours that would be involved or interested in having a deeper conversation about it, right? So I had been speaking with Jeff kind of before this, and we had talked about three things where scale computing is really going to play kind of going forward. And one of them is going to be VMware alternatives, right? Everyone has been dealing with the Broadcom acquisition and that for the last few years now, and it's not slowing down. I was going to say, if you have customers who are having issues with that, make sure to let us know, but that's going to be all of you. So definitely let us know. And some of the other things we talked about beyond the VMware alternatives, edge computing, right? It's going to be an awesome play for the edge. When I say edge computing, for me, that means anything not in the data center, right? So maybe pairing it up with kind of Lenovo's SC100s, some of those things. So if you have any customers with distributed environments, make sure to take some mental notes as Jeff is going through this and sync up with us afterwards. And then the last thing is the data center, right? It's still going to be a play in the data center. It's going to be a simple, scalable, very cost-effective play, in my belief. And so I'm looking forward to kind of hearing Jeff giving us a full breakdown, and then I'll kind of recap it at the end from a whole scale Lenovo ISG and D&H kind of perspective, and we'll make sure to obviously answer any questions along the way. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first poll question. So this is here. I hope everyone is able to answer this, and I'm doing the poll question correctly. I'll give it a few, maybe 30 seconds, 60 seconds here for everyone to answer that as they see fit. If you can't answer it, let me know in the chat and I'll figure out what I'm doing wrong, but hopefully it's all good. You can see there. How familiar are you with scale? This will be a great kind of base level for Jeff and I to understand, your knowledge of scale, and that way we can tailor kind of the presentation to your needs. Give it about 15, 20 more seconds here. I can see some answers coming in, so thank you all very much. Got to give it a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All right, let's see what we got here, Jeff. All right, so this is good. This is kind of perfect, and I love hearing this. So as you can see, it looks like some people are already actively working with Scale, so that's awesome. And then we have a lot of who are ready to learn more, and I think that's why we had a lot of registrants and attendees for this. So I'm excited for that. It's great to see. And then I do have one more question for you guys here. We're going to start off with back-to-back questions. I brought up the VMware and Broadcom aspect, right? Because that's going to be a huge pain point. We know it. So if you have any customers that are maybe having renewals coming up, things like that, where we know it's going to be something that we may need to actively look for an alternative solution, let us know here. And we'll be able to make sure, that you're getting all the information on hand and that we're having an exploratory conversation about it, right? Because that's what it's going to need to be. It's not necessarily a one-to-one replacement, right, for anything here. We want to make sure that we're understanding the environment, understanding the solution, and making sure that we're kind of offering you the correct thing there. So I'll give this about another 15 or 20 seconds. Then we'll see the poll results. And then, Jeff, I'll turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and run through our presentation here. All right, good. Seeing a lot of results, and it's about a half and half, which I think is about where we expect. So I'm going to give it 5 seconds here. Yeah, perfect. Like I was saying, about a half and half. So that's awesome. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity here to not only learn, but kind of immediately to start helping our customers there. And even those folks, they may not have a renewal coming up, or they may be thinking, I'm stuck with VMware, I'm stuck with Broadcom, I can't do anything, to get away from that. But maybe they'll learn something here. So with that, Jeff, I'm going to turn it over to you with this slide. I'll let you kind of take over the slides. And if you want to introduce yourself and start running us through this, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody hopping on today and learning a little bit as well, too. So interesting stats, kind of about what we expected and what we've seen as well, too. So hopefully we hit the target here today as we go through this. I was asked to keep this a little bit higher level from more of a sales perspective. With that said, if anybody wants to sync up later at a later date, my contact info will be on here. I'd be more than happy to do a demo, to hop in to help you out with customers, prospects, whatever the case is. We've got people in the field who can help locally, whatever the case might be. So happy to go deeper if need be. So what I thought I'd do is just kind of walk you through, give you an overview of who Scale is, what the solution is we have in the market, a few use cases that are out there that Andrew kind of hit on as well. That we'll kind of talk through, and then kind of some next steps going forward as well. So, stop me, raise questions. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to see the chat as we talk through it, but feel free if you have any questions, anything pops up. Andrew, if anybody else is monitoring the chat, feel free to interrupt and let's make sure we get questions answered.
Yeah, Jeff, and I was going to say, there is a question, and Jonathan, I see your question, but we'll answer it a little later. I think it'll be relevant a little later in the presentation. So.
Okay, good. Did the agenda and I've already got a question, so that means they're paying attention. You guys are on top of things. So, so who Scaled? So just as a high level, who Scale Computing is, been in the market for over a dozen years. Obviously the last 2 years has been very interesting. As Andrew mentioned, kind of the Broadcom acquisition of VMware, and all of a sudden everything is kind of exploded. There's an awful lot. That we've seen this market really take off in different directions ever since that happened. Andrew talked a little bit about, kind of the data center out to the edge. Where Scale plays today mostly is at the edge. And that's really where, you see us, but it doesn't mean we can't get into the data center and do a lot of things. Our largest customer from a data center standpoint is Resorts World in Las Vegas. And, as a customer, we manage over 15,000 of their security cameras inside the casino. So That is probably one of the best customer walkthroughs I've ever done. One of the coolest ones I've ever done, to kind of get back behind a security room inside of a casino and kind of see all the technology and stuff out there. It's actually pretty cool. So, but yeah, so I mean, it's everything from the data center all the way out to the edge. You can kind of read some of the stuff out there, the partnerships we have, how many customers. It's worldwide in terms of what's out there, as you'd expect from a solution that's been in the market for as long as we have, and getting off a lot of really good scores from technology scores when we're running against other solutions, and a lot of third parties do some of these testings and stuff, right? Compare solutions together, et cetera, et cetera. So, worldwide company, very high level, worldwide company, customers all over the world, a lot of big partnerships, a lot of big customers as well too, whether they're edge solutions or more data center solutions as well. Just kind of a little bit of a look into it, right? And this is kind of, reiterates what I was just kind of talking about before from a customer standpoint. Again, I'm not going to read these off to you. I'm not going to go through them. It's more just a matter of, it's the obligatory, it's the obligatory logo slide, right? That we put out there to make sure that everybody's aware of, of what the solution is. It's not a new solution in the market, been around time, and some of the biggest names out there in the industry kind of trust us, kind of work with us, and are very happy customers that we work with. So let's just talk a little bit about kind of where we are and what we're doing. So if you look at some of us who are old, I haven't been around this entire time with this entire chart, but if you kind of look at kind of where computing has gone, it really does ebb and flow, and we kind of see these. We see these migrations from centralized, it's kind of centralized data center, mainframe computing, to more distributed, back to more centralized, and kind of to more distributed. And, you can fill in the dates, whatever you want here, and see it. But the reality of the situation is we're getting into a point of time now where distributed computing is becoming more and more prevalent out there. I think AI is driving a lot of that. You're seeing more of a need to with the internet and people consolidating in the cloud, you're seeing consolidation of applications even on site. We're seeing more and more of the distribution of computing happening right now, and the power of what's out there as well is really what's driving it. And what I mean by that is, we're talking with, about Lenovo and their SC100 devices, right? You've got these small devices, these small computers the size of, a little bit bigger than a phone, right? Or a phone that you have out there that are, provide the horsepower to run your business, and run your business on them today, where, 10, 15 years ago, something like that didn't exist. And so you're seeing a lot of this horsepower be distributed out into a lot of the edge locations that are out there. And when we talk about these edge locations, I mean, it can be remote offices from a main corporate location, or it can be convenience stores, gas stations. Kind of the breadth of what's out there is just unbelievable. And we're going to talk a little bit about that market as we go forward. And we talk specifically about edge computing and what that market looks like. But we're definitely, main point, we've seen the ebbs and flows, and we're definitely getting to a point now where we're seeing a lot more distribution of the computing going on in the industry as a whole. And so what Scale really does is we focus on, we focus in environments that really, they have limited resources, right? We're talking about edge computing. They've got limited budget, limited staff, right? They just don't have the ability. If you walk into, argument's sake, you walk into a Circle K or 7-Eleven, there's no IT staff there, right? There's nobody in there who really knows anything about the computing environment that's there. Maybe you got somebody who knows how to turn it on and off, that type of thing. So our focus is really, how do we work with customers that have limited resources? We want to take the complexity out of their systems and out of how they actually allow that management of their systems in those locations. But at the same point, we're maximizing the performance, right? A slow system is fundamentally an unavailable system for all intent and purposes, right? If a system is slow, it's unavailable, it's essentially down. So we maximize performance and maximizing the flexibility to allow you to bring all these new applications. And we talk about AI and all this stuff starting to come into the fold now. So you've got to be able to provide what the solution is today for these smaller environments, as well as, grow into what's coming down the road here in the next few years. So from a scale standpoint, again, we talk about what we do. And, our goal really is reduction of cost, improving efficiency within the operation, and maximizing uptime. That's really what it kind of all boils down to. I'm going to talk here in a second about about the platform, about the virtualization platform that we have. It is an actual platform itself, right? So this isn't a Windows application. It's not a Linux app. It's an actual platform where you've got, virtual machines you create, just like you would run VMware. You've got virtual machines that you create. You can run Windows, Linux, whatever operating system you want inside, run whatever applications you want inside of those as well. You can see I've got my obligatory SE100 here and a 1U with a 3-node system in here. We prefer to run on a three node cluster. We can run as a single node, you can run, but we prefer to run as a 3-node cluster because it goes back to my point I made on the previous slide where we want to, or on this slide, excuse me, where we want to talk about maximizing uptime. So that 3-node cluster, you've got the SE100, you got those lower costed solutions that are out there, devices that are out there. So we can provide a 3-node cluster, get you the software and the virtualization software, do that in all your environments at a relatively low cost for customers. So, and that provides them with this maximum of uptime and the reduction of costs and stuff that's out there. So we prefer the 3-node cluster. But again, like I said, that's not to say we won't run in a single node for all argument's sake, if you want to go ahead and just put a single node out there. But we want to maximize uptime. We want to maximize failover or allow failover, or allow data protection, all that stuff to be allowed in your system as you deploy it.
Yeah, and then Jeff, I did have a question, and I think this is going to lead into kind of what you're showing in a little in the platform here. But Pat was asking, does Scale run Hyper-V? And my understanding that you're probably going to show it in a second is it doesn't run Hyper-V. You can migrate it over to
That's exactly right. So let me kind of talk to you about what Scale is, what the Scale platform is, and this will kind of relay right into your question, Andrew. So we have two main products, HyperCore and then Fleet Manager. So on the right is HyperCore. So HyperCore is a replacement for VMware. It's a replacement for Hyper-V, right? If you understand those technology, kind of understand what HyperCore is. It's a virtualization platform itself. So when you go and if I'm going to get an SE100 with HyperCore, let's just use that as an example. I'm going to get my SE100. I'm actually going to image the device with HyperCore. So now I've got a virtualization platform running on that device. And now I can create multiple virtual machines inside of HyperCore, but inside of that SE100, let's say, where I'm running Windows, and maybe I'm running a POS application on Windows, and I've got Linux as another hypervisor or a virtual machine inside of that as well that may be running a different app, and maybe another Windows box that's running back of office type of applications. So what we do is we actually replace VMware. We replace Hyper-V, right? Those are all similar types of systems that are out there that allow you to basically virtualize that environment that you have out there. That's HyperCore, right? That's what I talked about loading on the SE100s. You've got your 3-node cluster, let's say. You got that all running in your machine. And let's say you have a larger environment. Maybe you've got multiple convenience stores, multiple retail stores that are out there. And you want to manage those all from the data center, right? So now I'm sitting in a data center. I'm sitting at my desk, and I need to manage all of my stores, all of my locations. We have a product called Fleet Manager that allows you to see your entire fleet of clusters, right? So I can see all of my different stores, all of my different clusters from one location. It allows me to manage it remotely. So if you go back to the point I made earlier about, most of these locations that we really focus in on are, they don't have IT staff on site, right? They don't have a lot of resources out there. It allows you to manage that all from one location without having to roll a truck, right? Or get a truck rolled out to your convenience store because you've got, an IT person that needs to come out and actually needs to re-image or restart up an application or whatever the case might be. So our two solutions are HyperCore, which is the virtualization platform, the underlying platform itself, and then there's Fleet Manager, which allows you to manage all of your locations, or even just if it's one, but all of your locations from a single site. Hopefully that answered the question. And if you talk about what is HyperCore, so HyperCore down on the bottom here, if you're not familiar with hyperconverged is kind of a combination of storage, compute, and networking all in a single box, right? That's essentially what HyperCore is. And as you can see here, as I kind of drew out on the picture here, I've got my virtual machines and I've got my applications. If you're running containers and modern apps and stuff as well, that'll also work on HyperCore. But to kind of get back to the question that we were talking about as well, I've got HyperCore down on the bottom, which is my storage servers, right? It's all managed by HyperCore down there. And I create my virtual machines and I run my legacy applications inside of HyperCore. And whether they're containerized or not, whatever the case is, that'll all work within a HyperCore environment. So it gives you the ability to consolidate resources inside of your environment. And if you've ever been into a lot of older stores that are out there, or little things out on a little convenience stores out on the edge, a lot of them have, if you walk into their computing cabinet or closet, whatever it is, they'll have 9 computers in there, and each one of them is running a different app, and they're leaning against each other, and they're underneath the sink. And I mean, it's amazing what you see when you get out into some of these environments. So just real high level, and just to kind of bring it all back into one slide out here. It's everything I talked about up front that we really focus on, right? It's the simplicity of the system itself, right? It's giving that unified management, really being able to deploy this in less than an hour. The hypervisor, as we talked about, is included. Everything's included in the Mace system itself. It's scalable, right? Where you've got the single node, you've got the 3-node cluster. You can get out to multiple clusters. I mentioned the Resorts World before. There's 40-some clusters they're running just within their casino to go ahead and manage that all those video cameras and everything I talked about. We have different airports and stuff that are running HyperCore as well. Same thing. They've got all their video, all their security running on top of HyperCore. So there's tens of clusters that are out there inside of each environment, managing all that storage, managing all those applications that are out there. The availability is a big part as well too, right? The backup and replication, as well as disaster recovery as well. Big part of HyperCore itself. Now, we provide for customers who might not have their own backup app. Maybe they're not running Veeam, or they're not running, whatever backup application they have. Maybe they're not running a backup application out there. We do have some built-in snapshotting and replication capabilities built into the system, but they're not intended to take the place of these high-end backup and data replication solutions. But if you don't have it, again, cost-effective, we want to be able to provide it to the customer in case they don't have that, which kind of leads into the last one, affordability, which is providing all these solutions under a single umbrella. One of the things we'll talk about when we talk about VMware in a few minutes is, how if you wanted to get replication in the past, you bought a separate module. If you kept buying different modules to get what you wanted. We incorporate everything together into the single solution that's out there to keep costs down and really just kind of focus in on the big things that you're going to need to use. And then I talked about Fleet Manager, right? It's that ability to centralized platform to monitor and to manage your remote cluster. So from within Fleet Manager, and again, if we wanted to see a demo, we can set it up separate. But from within Fleet Manager, I can actually log on to any one of my clusters anywhere in the world that they are. I can log into the cluster. I can go ahead and create virtual machines. I can restart virtual machines. I can take them off. I can manage applications inside of the virtual machines, et cetera. So you can all do that from within Fleet Manager itself. So it's a pretty neat tool to allow you to manage, whether it's a smaller, like I said, a smaller environment, or in particular, those larger environments that are out there, to make sure that that you keep those operations running smoothly.
Hey, Jeff, Ronnie had a question. He mentioned, because you said mixing and matching nodes, essentially. You had said that. He was just asking for clarity on what exactly you kind of meant there. So
in mixing and matching, so you don't have to have all the same hardware. So you can have a cluster with different hardware. So if you did move into an environment or go into an environment that had some existing hardware out there, maybe they have some different versions of Lenovo hardware out there. You don't have to have all SE100s, argument's sake. You can have an SR250, or you can have a 630, right? Whatever. You can have different nodes that if you want to mix and match those nodes out there, right? They all don't have to be the exact same machine, the exact same specs in each one of the machines.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So how we license the software, just so you're aware. So we license it based on functionality of the software itself. So, and I'll show you in the next slide here, because I think the next slide goes in, kind of spells out a little bit the difference between what our standard and what our professional versions are. We basically sell the product by 1, 3, 5-year licenses. So it's a service. It's a software as a service that we provide out there. We do not do perpetual licenses at all. So everything is a service that we provide out to the customers. And you can see a lot of the stuff, the professional edition includes a little bit more of some of the stuff. And this is what I was talking about, snapshotting and replication. Some of the data disaster recovery solutions that are out there, those come in our professional edition. But again, it kind of is well incorporated into the license that you need based on the functionality that you require inside of your environment. And so if you are moving over, let's say a Hyper-V or from a VMware environment, and if you've got VMware calls them VMDKs, right? You got their VMDK files that are out there. You can actually just import those right into HyperCore. So if you run into an environment that's actually converting from VMware over to HyperCore, you can actually just import those VMDKs, your virtual machines that are already created in VMware. You can just import them into HyperCore, and HyperCore knows how to use them and knows how to create those virtual machines out of those VMDKs. So it's a pretty nifty little tool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about edge computing. If you're new to edge computing, you don't know much about it. I mean, the edge computing market is ridiculous how big it is. The market itself, I mean, it's, you can kind of look at the data that's up here. I mean, in the market size and stuff and the market forecast. I mean, it's expected to be a $250 billion market in the next 5 years. Today it's over 150 billion. There's so many edge environments that are out there worldwide. It's unreal if you think about it. And if you're out driving around today or whatever, you're going off to lunch, think about all the stores you see, all the gas stations. That's all edge computing. Every single one of those environments, somewhere, somehow, has a computer involved there. Regardless of what the device is, and they've got they're running applications to run that business, whether that's an offshoot of a corporate business, right? Like it's a remote office, or it's an actual, just small business in and of itself. And if you look at that edge computing market, the highest growth market in there is that SME segment, right? That's projected to have the highest growth rate that's out there. And if you think about what's going on and what's driving that growth right there, it's that companies are looking, as I mentioned before, they're looking to improve the agility and enhance customer experience. Think about McDonald's. Think about Taco Bell, right? Taco Bell is a huge customer of ours. Think about when you go in and you've got the machines that you kind of just type in now. You type your order in and all that kind of stuff, right? You don't have to go up to a counter and wait in a huge line. You can just go up to the podiums and order what you want, right? So it's all to enhance that customer experience. And when you think about edge computing, and I know we're using the term SMB or SME, whatever, in edge computing, don't get wrapped around the axle about the size of the customer. Many of these customers have thousands of outlets. I mentioned Circle K, 7-Eleven. Think about how many Circle Ks exist in the world, or just in the country, or just in your state. Think about gas stations, convenience stores, right? Shell gas stations, Chevron gas stations. Those are some of the big ones. Well, you've probably got local ones too, wherever you live, that are out there. And they have hundreds and thousands of locations. We just closed a pretty big hardware retail outlet that's out there, and they've got over 2,500 locations around the country. So, I mean, if you think about it, each one of those individual stores might look like an SME or an SMB, the individual store, but the account itself, the size of the account itself is usually, you're talking about thousands, hundreds and thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of outlets that each these convenience out there. So don't just think, oh, it's SMB. I don't play in SMB. I'm an enterprise, and that's okay. But each one of those, those enterprises, probably break down into more of an SMB inside of each one of those individual locations they have. So when you're thinking about it, the other thing to think of, and this is kind of an alert that should just go off. I mean, if you start talking to some of these customers and they start talking about modernizing their hardware or consolidating their resources in each one of these individual stores, that's kind of the bell right off the top. Opportunity there to let's go consolidate their compute environment, and let's see what we can do to kind of modernize their hardware, consolidate their environment, bring their applications together right now as well too, where they've got now some of these things have restaurants and everything in them, and we're kind of consolidating all their compute from all their different restaurants and everything that they have inside of these locations onto a single cluster inside of their environment. So it's, back to what I started with, right? If you think about kind of what's out there, right, how this market has ebbed and flowed, and now, I'm trying to make the case to you so you understand a little bit about, we're really moving more now into that distributed environment as we were talking about, and you're seeing more and more of these locations now. There's only so many data centers, right? I mean, there's so many data centers that are out there. Again, I mentioned, chain stores, really one or two data centers, but they've got hundreds of outlets, and they're growing and they're adding more outlets. So the outlets that they're adding around the country, around the world, are adding. They're building new ones every day, every couple of weeks, whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, they're doing, the data center for the most part is kind of staying stagnant where it's at. So they're adding lots, and their growth is coming from a lot of these new outlets that they're building up. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying, right? So if we think about edge, don't just think about SME or SMB, right? Think about a lot of what we talked about before. When you think about edge, you got manufacturing that's out there, right? All the manufacturing outlets that are there. You've got video and security. We talked about that. You've got, maritime. You've got healthcare. You've got C-stores and retail. There's so many different use cases just inside of edge computing to think about and to understand of how much opportunity there exists in each one of these that are out there, right? There's a ton of these use cases just inside edge itself. Here's 6 of them that I kind of threw out just to give you an example of opportunities that you can go after or that you can start looking for when you're out talking and exploring out there. And when you think of it too, and this is something, this one really blew my mind. And I wanted to incorporate this on here so you really had a feel for the financial restraints that some of these companies have to deal with. I was talking with a C-store supplier. They're a gas station, and they have a convenience store inside of their environment. And this company that we're working with, this vendor, they supply about 56,000 convenience stores across the U.S. And as you mentioned, that's they've got gas stations and all, so you can kind of back your way into what they do. But in fact, if you go to pump your gas and you go and while you're pumping your gas, there's a little video screen on the gas screen. Well, this is what that company does. And they've got about 56,000 different gas stations around the country that they work for. They about 1,700 times a month they have to roll out a truck. And a truck roll basically means they're putting somebody in a truck and they're going to the gas station to fix what's going on in that environment. So they're doing about 1,700 of those per month to fix, update, maintain the system. And it costs them about $250 a piece every time they roll a truck. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Do the math. That's almost $500,000 a month just to maintain these environments that they have out there. So you can kind of see when we just talk about SMB, well, reality is it's not. There's a lot of money in this when they go to have to support these environments, and to have a system that goes. Are we getting? Am I locking up? Is our screen locking up?
You were freezing a little off and on there, but not too bad.
Want me to go off video? I'll go off video just to kind of just in case.
Yeah, I think that'll free it up a little.
All right, I'll go off video. You don't need to see my beautiful face anyway. So, but it just kind of goes to, it really goes to show you how much money we're talking about when we talk about some of these environments. Is there's $500,000 a month to maintain these systems. Right. I mean, it's not, we're not talking about anything huge here. So, there's an awful lot of money here in supporting these environments. And it really kind of boils down to the fact, like when I said, don't confuse SME with, these aren't enterprise environments or whatever the case might be. They're spending enterprise money to have to support these environments and maintain these environments. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about VMware and VMware Replace. So as we kind of, Andrew hit on and I hit on and we talked as well too. A lot of issues that are out there. And again, I'm not going to read through the slide. You can read through some of the issues that are there, but how expensive VMware actually was, right? The VM tax that's out there, that was out there in the past, but how expensive VMware was just in the past. Forget about what's out there now with Broadcom, just talking about what was out there in the past, how long it took to manage and patch different systems that are out there, the cost, and how much it costs to train and get your certifications, and how many VMware experts you needed to have on staff, and amount of downtime and the reliability and stuff. And then you're not even talking about how much it costs to own it, right? We talk I had these diffuse around VMware. They kind of own the market, and so they were able to kind of set the price they want. They were able to kind of, for the most part, say, well, that's how it works, right? If you want virtualization, that's how it works. And there really wasn't a lot of options in the markets and other places to go to. So what we've done now is we've kind of gotten to a point where with the acquisition by Broadcom, it's really changed the market. It's really changed the dynamics in the market. And what it's done is it's really kind of almost isolated VMware from a standpoint of, there's only about 600 customers now that they're focused on, Broadcom is focused on. All the rest of these customers have to find someplace else to go. They recently changed their minimum core licensing. So now the minimum amount of cores, if you buy VMware now, the minimum amount of cores your customer has to spend, they've got to buy 72 cores minimum. That's it. It used to be 16, now it's 72. Right. So again, they're really getting rid of these edge customers, these smaller environments, want nothing to do with them anymore. And what customers are seeing is a huge price increase. Right. There's almost a 20x price increase on certain environments that customers are seeing. And it's only subscription models you can buy. So there is no more perpetual license. Plus, there's about a 25% penalty for late renews on your subscription licensing. So the cost of this is, and you can't renew for fewer cores. So if I buy a 72 core today and I go back down or whatever, change my systems, want fewer cores, you can't buy fewer cores. You can't renew with fewer cores. You got to buy a whole new license at that point. And one of the more important things is for your customers, when Andrew was talking up front and asked the question, how many of your customers are coming off VMware or looking for alternatives? If customers purchased a VMware perpetual license before, right, when their support contract longer can update their products. They're not going to be able to update their update.
Jeff, it still froze a little in there. Could you just repeat what you were saying about the perpetual license?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what the issue is. I apologize for the freezing on. I don't know if it's on my end. It sounds like it's on my end, so I apologize. But if you bought a perpetual license, VMware, and let's say my support contract comes due at the end of this year, I cannot renew or upgrade my product after my support contract comes due. So if my support contract ends next week, after next week, I can no longer update my perpetual licensing of VMware that I have. So I'm basically screwed, and I'm stuck at the version that I have right now with no new updates unless I get a brand new support contract, which the prices are jacked up on, or I go buy a whole new licensing, a whole new subscription licensing. So it's really forcing customers. You've got to start making decisions on where you want to go. They might have been able to push this off for a year or two, whatever, but the bill's coming due here pretty quick.
And Chuck had a question, and he was asking, are there data center use cases that wouldn't make sense to migrate?
So if you've got some heavy duty applications that are running. When I mean heavy duty applications, if you're running SAP or, I don't know if you'd virtualize that, but if you've got heavier duty applications, we might not be the right play. That's something more Nutanix, right? Even though they're a competitor of ours, they're going to be better suited for that than we are. Vice versa, they won't be, they're not going to be suited out at the edge or out at these environments out at the edge where we are. But I would say more real compute intensive applications that are there that you have in your environment might be better suited to alternative solutions. Whereas, again, if you're just running a single one, I talked about the video. If you're running a single application or solution on there, we're fine there. But when you get to real heavy compute intensive ones, those are going to get those might be better suited for all their other solutions. That's what they do, right? That's where they're focused on.
Got it.
And again, what I'm assuming, if we get these slides out to you, here's a little comparison of Scale to VMware. It's not a one-to-one comparison. Okay, as we've been talking about, as I talked about all along up until now, it's not really a one-to-one comparison. That's not how it's meant to be. That probably 80% of the VMware that you buy or the functionality inside of VMware that you bought, you probably don't use. So let's focus on the 20-25% that you do use, and let's focus on that as a solution to bring to market, and that's what we did. And so you can, when you get these slides, you can actually read through and kind of compare what's part of it, what's not part of it, and kind of get rid of the fact that we got rid of a lot of the functionality that, just users were not using as part of VMware. That, when we did the research out to them is kind of what we saw. So next steps, again, from an edge computing standpoint, as I talked about, right? It's the consolidation of resources. That's a bell. I want to go ahead and I want to modernize my IT. That should start be ringing off bells. I've got VMware. The bill's come and due, right? We talked about the bill come and due with VMware. Again, creates a great opportunity for us to go in and kind of do those, remove those or kind of replace those environments. And like I said, if we want to get deeper technology-wise, technical-wise, have more discussions, demos, whatever the case, proof of concepts, whatever you want to do, reach out. I'm happy to get engaged and help out. If you're going to work with Andrew, I mean, whoever you work with doesn't matter to me, but I'm happy to help you get engaged with the right people if it's not me, to make sure that we can help you as you go forward to take that next step with your customers. So again, kind of where I wanted to go, just very high level, kind of give you an overview, talk a little bit about some of the edge cases or some of the use cases as we went forward, a little bit about Scale. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, if there's any other questions, I'm happy to help. I can hang around a little bit, or like you said, feel free to email me and contact me directly in that standpoint.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. And Pat, to your question, we can definitely send the slides out afterwards. Just reach out to us and let us know. It should be in, I believe, maybe the resources section, but I'd have to double check. So again, thank you very much, Jeff. And to kind of circle back, Jonathan, I told you originally we'd answer your question. You had asked, you currently purchase both through a different distributor. Is it just the hardware from D&H or the hardware and the Scale? You can do both from D&H. So we can absolutely do both. Reach out to myself, Shannon, who is my co-BDM, or the Lenovo server at dnh.com team. And we'll work with Jeff. We work with the Lenovo team hand in hand and Scale to obviously get that quoted out and over to you. So not an issue there. And then sorry, I think we have one more.
Sorry about my bandwidth issues. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. I apologize for that.
Yeah, not a problem. And Rodney, that's a good question. Are the SKUs available at D&H? Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% positive if they would be on the website. But again, I would encourage you, reach out to our team. We can get that set up and we can get, the quote, the pricing, the parts over to you. No problem. And then I do want to take a few minutes here to kind of put a bow on it, right? So here we go. We were just talking about the demos, and that was something that Jeff brought up that I had not, even necessarily thought of, but I was like, dang, that's an awesome idea. So if you guys were seeing this, please answer, one more. This is the last poll question, I swear, and then I'll put a bow on everything. But if you are interested in a demo, kind of immediately, let us know. Or if you are, looking for something in the future, definitely let us know in the past. And then Raj, I saw you asked for the contact info, so I will kind of reach out, I can get that sent over to you as well here in a second. Just going to let this poll question go through first. I'm going to give it a few more minutes, or a few more seconds, sorry. All right, then we're going to go. All right, perfect. So that's good. So we got a few folks to follow up with, and then it looks like we want to keep driving this conversation, right? So that's kind of where I was talking about at the start. If you have customers that are going to be interested in this, let's introduce Scale to them, right? Let's have that conversation. So then we can start driving it and say, okay, there is a use case there. They are going to need it. Let's set up the demo and make sure everything's covered. And then I did want to, kind of recap it. Like I said, with our Lenovo ISG team here, I know we're kind of towards the end of time, and I don't want to keep y'all for the full hour, but here you have us. We have a full team. You can see 13 people. I like to emphasize that. I like to say 13 people, right? That speaks to the investment, in my opinion, that Lenovo has made in D&H as a distributing partner. And I also think it speaks to the investment that D&H has made in Lenovo as a partner in the ISG space, right? In the data center space. So you see myself and Shannon here. We're your BDMs. We're happy to be your first points of contacts. And then you have your full team here as well. Sean and Joel, always happy to discuss, pre-sales engineering with you any way we can help. And then our team is here to get you, quick turnarounds on pricing, questions, things like that. So if you haven't worked with our team yet, I encourage you, not just for scale, obviously, hopefully for scale, but for any opportunities, reach out to Lenovo server at dnh.com. That'll go to our whole team, which is awesome because then you can get immediate responses and things like that. And then you see a little note here about Lenovo's mission acquisition program. If you've been on any of these trainings with us, if you've been on any calls with us, I always like to hammer this home, right? It is something I think that is very important. You're going to hear it from Lenovo. You're going to hear it from us at D&H. It's a great way to disrupt, right? So to say, it's an awesome way to compete against some of those other manufacturers out there and make sure that you're getting the best, technological solution, but also the best cost-effective solution. So essentially, if you aren't familiar with mission acquisition, Lenovo's new customer bonus, what it means is if a customer has not purchased Lenovo ISG in the past 3 years, they'll be eligible for this. And one of the reasons I was just speaking about our team and the things we can do, I only want you to know about this program from an awareness perspective, right? It's on us as a team. Anytime we see an opportunity come in from you, anytime we see a deal registration request come in, one of the first things we do is we will go and make sure to check if the customer is eligible for this new customer bonus on your behalf, and then we'll submit it for approval, right? We'll get that taken care of. It's not something that you need to worry about, the legwork on. You guys have 100 different partners you're selling, right? You have 1,000 different partner programs you can't be aware of. That's our job. So make sure you're sending the opportunities to us at D&H and our team, and we'll make sure, we're leveraging the partner programs like mission acquisition to the best of our ability for you. And then this is a unique program we have at D&H, so I always like to touch on it. It's for partners who are currently authorized or silver level at Lenovo. And I will say, if you're not aware of your current partner level, shoot me an email, ping me, give me a call. I can look that up. No problem for you. But again, this is an exclusive program that D&H is running with Lenovo ISG. So if you are an authorized or silver level partner, sign up. We've been running it for the whole year, but still plenty of time left. Sign up. Anything you sell Lenovo ISG wise through D&H, you'll be getting a little bit of a back end rebate on, right? So you can see the numbers here. You can do the own math in your head, but we want to make sure that you're signed up for this program so that you're earning dollars on anything you sell Lenovo ISG through D&H. I'm happy to talk through this program more in depth because I think it's awesome. And then if you're an authorized partner, you don't even have to sign up for this. But if you are an authorized partner, so again, reach out to me if you're not aware of your status, and you sell 250K of Lenovo ISG through D&H by March 31st, and again, this will backdate all the way to April 1st, you're eligible for up to $4,000 on the back end. So huge opportunity there. If we can close some decent sized projects in the next few months, reach out to me, reach out to Shannon, reach out to our D&H team. We are here to make all of this simpler for you, right? That's our job. That's our goal. And then I do want to, maybe bring on Ryan Scher. I don't know if you're still with us, but he can chime in as well. I wanted to talk lastly about Lenovo 360 and Lenovo Top Choice Express. So Lenovo's Top Choice, it's essentially it's not even a program. It's essentially something that Lenovo does where they have a lot of kind of top selling components, pieces, whether it be, the hard drives, the memories, all the things like that, in stock and can typically ship in about 10 business days. And the reason why this is so important is, all of these, the Lenovo servers, everything's CTO, right? So we need to make sure that we are getting this to the customer in ample time. And so we always want to be leading with the Top Choice Express option, right? If possible. It's going to be the best pricing. It's going to be the best lead time, things like that. We will always try to let you know if it's a Top Choice Express option. But this is where I kind of, from a distributor and on behalf of Lenovo, my ask to you guys is, if you know that an opportunity is time sensitive, right? If you know they're going to need this server in under a month or something like that, please let us know so we can make sure to default to a Top Choice Express build and whole bill of material, right? Because what we're going to do is when opportunities come over, if a customer requests certain specs, we're going to try to, support that to the best of our ability. But sometimes that won't necessarily always be a Top Choice Express option. So if you let us know up front, that something is urgent and is needed within this kind of time frame, then we can make sure to lead with it from the start. Or we can give you two options, right? Can kind of say, hey, here's what your customer requested. They need this in 2 weeks. They need this in 3 weeks. Let's look at this top choice option. Here's what the bill of material is going to be. So again, from a very high level perspective, Top Choice Express is readily available parts and components that can ship to you in a few weeks. And given everything that's going on in the supply chain that people are expecting across the industry for 2026 and maybe even beyond, this is something we want to take advantage of. So please let us know up front, but also know that we're going to try to lead with a Top Choice Express option when possible. I don't think I see any questions around that, so hopefully that made sense. But if you do have any questions, please let me know. This is just high-level recap of exactly what I was saying and why you would want to go with Top Choice Express. So again, that's what we're always going to try to lead with, but please let us know if that is something you want to lead with so we can get out in front of it as quickly as possible. And then lastly, I know we still have some folks on and everything here. So Lenovo has what I would simply call an awesome executive briefing center on their campus in Raleigh. It is super cool. It's fantastic. It's new. It had been undergoing renovations, and so it recently opened. D&H, as part of our partnership with Lenovo ISG, we like to get our partners there, right? We like to get our partners and our customers there. So we are hosting an event in February where it's all expenses paid, where our partner can come with a customer. I want to emphasize that. It is both a partner and customer event, but we'll do all expenses paid. We'll get out there. You can learn hands-on from the Lenovo, leadership and everyone like that about the whole ISG portfolio, about solutions like Scale, about, trending topics like AI, security, and things like that. So I wanted to get this on your radar. I will say this is an exclusive event, so it is by event only. So my ask, if you are interested in joining and attending this event or have a customer who would be interested, please reach out to myself and please reach out to Shannon. We'll be able to talk that through with you and see if it makes sense, and then we'll be able to get that from there. So I think that's about everything. I do want to, Mark had mentioned, are you distributing Scale software? And it's similar to a questions earlier, but yes, we are able to do that. And I see the bandwidth is breaking up too, so I'm going to go off video for a second. But yep, Mark, to your point, and I think Jonathan's earlier, we can sell the Scale software through D&H via our Lenovo ISG team. So we can do both the Lenovo hardware and the Scale software. So a great opportunity, obviously, to leverage our team and make sure you're getting the solutions there. And I think that's about all I have. And I am sorry about the bandwidth issues, Pat. If you were having any, I went off camera to hopefully go there. But if you weren't able to hear what I was saying or whatnot, let me know, or I'm happy to jump on a quick call after this with everyone. But yeah, like I said, hopefully you guys learned a lot regarding Scale there. And please, hopefully, like I had asked, you have a couple customers in mind, just reach out to us. We can obviously talk it through. We'll work with the Scale team. And I want to make sure it's a solution-based sale, right? I don't want this to be transactional. I want to make sure that we're having the conversation with you and we're having the conversation with the customer and making sure they're getting the best option and understanding the best option going forward. So with that, I don't have much more here for you. I'm going to stay on for the next 5 or 6 minutes if anybody does have any questions, but appreciate y'all joining.